Hey everybody. So today I thought I would uh, kind of address the expectations versus the reality of weather here on the Big Island. Now, if you're assuming that it's going to be sunshine and rainbows, you're not wrong, but you're not 100% correct either. Now, I myself live on the wet side of the island. The dry side would be the Kona side. So I'll talk about the Kona side a little bit, but I'll mostly be focusing on the Hilo side, simply because that's more relative to me and my experience, and I just don't want to go into anything that I don't fully understand, like the Kona side. Now, what I expected when I moved here is that it would be raining all the time. um, Let me take that back. I expected it to be raining almost all the time. Um, I looked for property in HPP, specifically because it's known as the Sun Belt. So when weather is coming in, it will sometimes just break apart and you'll be left with a bunch of sunshine. And this is especially important for me because Caitlin and I have solar power equipment here. And obviously, if you've got a lot of clouds, you'll still receive energy from the sun, but it simply won't be nearly as effective and productive as if you just had straight sunshine. So the UV light that comes through the clouds, which is necessary for the solar panels to actually produce the energy, is still there. It's just not nearly as abundant. Now, I'll start with the Kona side, just real quick because it's a little bit shorter. So on the Kona side, it's a lot drier. The climate is about 70, probably mid 70s most of the time when I go. I've never actually noticed it get below the 60s when it gets dark. The few times I've had to stay in an Airbnb over there. Um, as far as rain goes, you'll see the rain clouds coming and then they'll just go away. So rain is very little. I mean, it's like a desert over there. It's got a lot of burn issues over there where wildfires will just kind of get out of hand because it is so dry. And as you're coming down from Mauna Kea, you'll go from uh, maybe like low 60s to high 70s once you get to the coast. So the temperature changes pretty dramatically. Since a lot of people probably end up in Kailua Kona, I expect that the temperature is probably about 72 or so over there. Hilo side, so where I'm at. Now, it's a lot greener over here, and that's just a byproduct of the heavy amounts of rain that we get here. I actually have stopped looking at the Weather Channel almost altogether online because it pretty much stays constant. It's 75 high, 60 something low. Uh, it doesn't vary, it seems like, throughout the year. So this is pretty constant, which also kind of contributes to the always growing season here. Um, Now, as far as raining goes, so it is to my understanding that the traditional winter months that you might experience on the mainland are known as the wet season, and so your rainfall is a little bit higher. Now, in HPP, just about a 20-30 minute drive to Hilo, that distance does have a big impact on the actual amount of precipitation that we receive here. Um, in Hilo, it's not always raining when I go through, but more often than not it will be. And the good thing about rain here on the Big Island is that it comes and goes pretty quickly. So in HPP, what I would say is that it almost always rains in the early morning, probably about 8 a.m., and it's usually just kind of a smattering of rain, not really anything crazy. And then it will almost always rain again around like 8 o'clock. The night rains are a lot harder than the day rains. That's not to say I haven't had a few days where it was pretty hard in the day, but the ratio does seem to be inclined towards night rains being the more significant of the times when the rain's going to come. Now, in terms of like how to prepare for this, I would just say that if you're going to be staying in a tent-like structure, kind of like what we have here, clothing, you're going to want to probably make sure that you have some long sleeves. to prevent any kind of bug bites during the night when you're sleeping. It does not feel good to be woken up by an ant bite. It does happen though. And I typically will sleep in long, like pajama bottoms and a long sleeve shirt, sometimes not the long sleeve shirt, and socks, like long tube socks. And I sleep pretty comfortably under blankets. Caitlin's the same. Honestly, she'll sleep under the blankets and she doesn't really have any issues. During the daytime, I would say that you can wear long sleeve shirts if you'd like. I did that a lot when I first moved here because the sunshine is strong enough that you'll get burned. I was kind of pale when I got here, and I've kind of started developing that baseline tan to kind of prevent any burning. But now I've gotten to where when I go out in clear land, I just wear pants and a short sleeve shirt because the sweat from just doing the work will actually keep the mosquitoes off my arms and neck. You don't want to wear anything. So I have a lot of cotton products and they do okay. I would say like that material that you find for like rain jackets and stuff, that material is very ideal for pants and whatnot when you're working outside because it's pretty breezy. It doesn't sit on you and create like a heavy feeling, but also if it rains, it just kind of beads off. If you do end up having a lot of clothes that aren't the material where water just kind of falls off, the good news is that the sunshine usually comes right after rain and you'll dry off pretty quickly. One of the biggest issues that we had here when we first moved here is we were so used to, with laundry specifically, being able to kind of just leave it on the ground or on the floor or whatever for a day or two extra before we would actually fold it and put it away. That has changed. Mold does get produced very quickly here. When we brought books, like paperback books, I did notice that they kind of fluffed up, and I would assume that if I gave them any chance at mold, they would probably do so. I did move those books primarily into totes and things that had a little bit more humidity decreasing effects. But basically, in terms of weather, what you need to know when you move to the Big Island, if you live on the Kona side, it's going to be dry and warm. That's why a lot of tourism is there, is because they don't have to really deal with the weather. But as far as how pretty it is, if you're not looking at the coast, you're probably looking at some kind of deserty climate. If you're going to be living on the Big Island's Hilo side, you're going to be seeing those tropical plants that you expect of Hawaii. You'll get rain just about every day. How long it is going to rain is typically the main question, and you'll get used to it. And with the clouds, because the darker ones, if you see a lot of sunshine going away, you're probably going to get a nice thick rain. But generally speaking, even a heavy rain, especially if it's during the daytime, doesn't last long. Even at night when it's at its worst, in my experience, which in this tent, it's pretty hard to ignore because it's like a gigantic drum, a tympanic drum, where the rain hits it and it's just very loud. I've had to wear, earplugs to get to sleep some nights. But even the heaviest rains, I've never seen a rain last more than 30 minutes. So it does come and go, but it's almost guaranteed twice a day. Not during the middle of the day when you need to be doing stuff, so that's good, but mostly in the morning and then especially at night after the sun sets. But temperature-wise, it's pretty much always ideal. I mean, this weather rocks. It just feels so good. You will enjoy yourself. Flip-flops and sandals and stuff like that, you're always wearing them. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of touch on weather because I did try to understand it from the mainland before I moved here. Now, hurricane season is typically in the summer months. I'll make a video after that. So high winds is kind of the main thing I'm worried about with all the trees. Trees here, they don't seem to root very well, so they fall over. You'll hear them falling in the night sometimes during a heavy wind. But we'll see how that goes. We're not quite there yet. It's the 4th, I think, of April, and so I think we're kind of exiting the wet season. The wet season this year didn't seem too bad for us. I don't know if that's just because we're in the Sun Belt. I expected it to be raining a lot more, which again, the wet season's the winter months that you would traditionally find on the mainland. So that's pretty much about it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you guys for your time. Mahalo.